And we're starting to see more from what people are hoping to learn from today in the chat. So better understand how safe routes coordinators can help keep students and families safe. Yes. And maybe a little bit different way. I'm looking for more ways to support undocumented and racialized students and families. Yes. Um, more conversations and learning about how we can keep our families and our communities safe. Melissa, wonderful. We hope to help you all do that today, or you can bring us to the next slide. Um, we are going to hold a quick Menti. We're just trying to understand beyond what you're hoping to gain from today, um, what you might be coming here because of. So uh, there you go, Corey. You need to share the link in the chat. Um, we're trying to understand what brings you to today's session. So you have three options on there. Give us a sense of who's in the audience, help our speakers think a little bit how to speak best to your needs.
And the mentee's right in the chat.
And Corey, we lost your slides again in that process. All right. So there does seem to be a bit of a balance of the majority here that either have active immigration enforcement in their communities and it's impacting their work. Um, there seems to be a majority of you that are anticipating future immigration enforcement and want to be prepared, and some of you that are just curious about the topic today and have joined us because of that. Corey, can we keep that open for just maybe 30 more seconds?
Sure.
I can't see how many people are logged in versus how many are responding, but
It's 39 out of 43 responding. We'll give it another minute.
you may have noticed if you're logging in that your video is showing up just like it does when you join a typical meeting. This is not set up like our webinars are. It is set up a little bit more like a meeting. So you came on and you were muted. Would be helpful if you kept it that way. But if you want to come off a video and or come on to video to participate a little bit more, you can do that. But you don't have to. It's always nice to see the faces in the crowd. All right, we can flip back, Corey. Seems like the majority of folks that have joined the call today are anticipating future immigration. And maybe in second place there was those of you that actively have immigration enforcement in your communities. Maybe this is your first time joining one of our webinars. In case that is true, I want to introduce you to us at the Safe Routes Partnership, where our mission is to advance safe walking and rolling to and from schools and in everyday life. A couple of reminders, typically because we're asked, the webinar is being recorded. All of the resources that are mentioned will be linked in the slide deck, and then the recordings and the slides will be posted after the webinar. And if you are registered for this webinar, you should receive an email from us that notifies you of that. Love to see people in the chat asking questions, or sorry, interacting with each other. If you have a specific question you'd like us to bring to the presenters as we dive into some of the questions from last time, please put those in the Q&A box instead of in the general chat. It's easier for us to track them that way. And hey, coming soon, October 20th to the 22nd, is the Safe Routes to School National Conference in Minneapolis, Minnesota. The call for proposals is open for 7 more days. So you have a week if you've been thinking about it. Hopefully you have. If you're just hearing about it now, um, there's a great opportunity in our Safe Routes to School Google group to connect with other people that are considering proposals. There's conversations happening there where people who didn't know each other but have a similar topic to present on are connecting to put together proposals for the conference. So the proposals are due by April 1st, and we hope to see you in Minneapolis in October. And then some, but not all people know that here at the Safe Routes Partnership, we do have a consulting practice. So we're here to support all of you, whether you're working at the state or the local level. We have a variety of um, skills that we bring on our team to support Safe Routes to School around the country. And you can find out more about that on our website uh, under the consulting page. But let's maybe get to what you all are here for, which is our what we hope to be a little bit more of a fireside chat. We'll get rid of the slides here in a second, but first wanted to cover a little bit about what we heard last session a few weeks ago when Sarah and Jenny joined us. We heard a lot about impact in the community, and both Sarah and Jenny painted vivid pictures of what it looked like when federal enforcement was escalated in communities and how that impacted Safe Routes to School programs. They talked a lot about how traditional programming felt out of touch for the moment, um, the changes it made to their approach to things like data collection, and also the beautiful side of the crisis, the coming together of community that we've had here in the Twin Cities as a response to the surge in federal enforcement and potentially thinking to the future of how what role Safe Routes to School plays in healing. Um, if you haven't seen that session, I do suggest you go back and check it out. We'll share that recording um, as a part of the follow up for this as well. And then I'm just really glad to be joined yet again by two people I respect a great deal, Jenny Borden and Sarah Stewart. If you don't know Jenny, she's done just about everything in this space. Back in the early days, she was part of helping launch a walking school bus at Lindale Community School. And over the years, she's brought that same spirit into bigger and bigger work across Minneapolis. She's led both district-wide and school-specific Safe Routes to School planning, got teachers across the district interested and trained in bicycle and pedestrian safety education, organized a never-ending list of amazing encouragement events, with three of my favorites being their Minneapolis Rolls district-wide bike ride, their district bike and walk field trip guide, and their bus stop and walk program. She's led arrival and dismissal walk audits with community members and staff, brought together local and city task force, and helped connect that work to broader city, statewide, and even national efforts. But what really stands out is how she does it. Jenny brings a deep commitment to social justice, a steady hand in the face of constant challenges, and a willingness to always make time for others. She's someone I've learned a lot from over the years, and just as importantly, she's someone I always find myself gravitating toward in a room. She brings warmth and insight and a genuine joy to this work that makes everyone around her better. So please take a moment to welcome her in the chat while I introduce Sarah. And Sarah Stewart is cut from a similar cloth. She's been working in active transportation for nearly 2 decades, with roots in public health and community-based transportation work in Minneapolis, before moving across the river to St. Paul to become the first Safe Routes to School coordinator for St. Paul Public Schools. Even before St. Paul, her work reflected a strong, equity-focused public health lens. She helped lead community engaged active transportation work in Minneapolis, and including efforts focused on improving access in lower income communities. In St. Paul, she's been a driving force behind building and sustaining a program that includes walk and bike events, safety education and PE, mobile bike fleets, school planning, and a strong partnership with city and regional agencies. Since then, she's been the driving force behind building and sustaining the program there. She's thoughtful, deliberate, incredibly effective, and she shows up as a collaborator, a partner, and someone who simply gets things done. If you talk to anyone connected to Safe Routes work in St. Paul, whether it's inside the school district or with city partners, they'll tell you the same thing. Sarah is the glue that holds it all together. So we're really lucky to have this experience here today to talk with us. Please do take a moment to welcome them in the chat. And I'll remind you that today's conversation builds on our last open Zoom listening session. If you missed it, I'd encourage you to go back and watch. In that conversation, we explored what Safe Routes looks like when the primary barriers are no longer distance, traffic, or weather, but fear. Fear of children being taken, fear of caregivers being taken, fear of families being separated. We asked hard questions, like when that becomes the barrier, how does it change the way you do Safe Routes to School work day to day? Jenny and Sarah's helped us think that through, what it looks like on the ground, what they were seeing in their communities, how students and families were experiencing it, and what it meant for programs that are built on trust and visibility and connection. But as we spoke after the session, one of the things that we did not go deeply enough in that last conversation was action. We talked about what people were experiencing, but maybe not as much about how communities responded or what that looked like for a Safe Routes coordinator trying to make hard decisions. In the Twin Cities, people did not respond in one single way. They found their own ways to act, shaped by their role, their relationship, and their capacity. And for many, that action became a way to support families, stay grounded in their work, and regain a sense of agency in a truly difficult moment. And that is part of what we hope to explore today. Like, what does that response look like in this context? What is appropriate? What is helpful? As Safe Routes professionals, what can you actually do? And maybe just as important is how do you make those decisions in real time in your own community when there isn't a clear playbook? So with that, welcome, Jenny and Sarah. I'm really glad you're here. Thank you for joining us and making time in your day. I might ask you both, since this is going to be a little bit more of a conversation, to come off a mute, and we'll just see how that goes.
I would just say thanks, Dave. That was a lovely introduction, and I really appreciate the partnership, everybody here, and it's such a pleasure to work with Sarah and to work with Dave. So I appreciate both of you.
Same here. And David didn't tell you, but he used to be the Safe Routes coordinator here in Minnesota too. So he's contributed in some ways, in a lot of ways, to the work that we do. So very grateful for
Yeah,
him. And also Jenny, who is honestly kind of my muse. She started the work, and it's a playbook that I've in a lot of ways been able to make use of. So appreciate everyone here too.
Same back at you, Sarah. When you started, I just appreciate so much. I've learned a lot from you. So I'm glad to have you as a partner, both of you as a partner in all this.
warm fuzzies all around. um, One of the things that I don't think I mentioned in the framing of this was at the end of the last session, we asked everybody that joined us what questions they still had about moving forward with their work. And unsurprisingly, people had a lot of questions still. And a lot of them were related to action. What can we do? So we're going to dive into those questions, and we can just popcorn answers. Feel free if you're listening and you're in the chat. We'd love to hear if you've got unique approaches here. I don't think any one of us feels like there's a solid answer or maybe a right answer, but we'll see. And before we get into those questions, I wanted to start with something a little bit lighter. So what is one thing outside of work that has been bringing you joy recently?
can
Okay.
go. Mine is that I about 2 weeks ago I bought a new bike and I'm really excited to be riding it around as the spring is warming up here. Because my favorite bike was stolen last fall, and so I'm finally replaced it, and it's made me very happy.
I
Did you replace it with extra locks too, Sarah? I forget. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, yes, and extra tracking devices and all,
Yeah.
all the things, but yeah.
I was gonna say it was 75 degrees here on a Saturday in March. And it's one thing that I love about Minnesota because March could be 20 degrees. And if there's a 75-degree sunny Saturday, everybody celebrates and everybody was outside. And from sunup to kind of sunset, um, I was biking and walking and sitting on my step, and it's an easy icebreaker on a Monday morning. What did you do on the beautiful day? Because we will not, I come from people that will not waste a 75-degree day with me a lot of pleasure.
Did feel like there was a collective sigh on that especially warm day.
Yep. A Saturday, if it's 75 on a Saturday, you can't waste it. So we do have bad weather, but we also know how to appreciate good weather.
It brings perspective. Uh, all right. So if you don't mind, I will start to jump into some of the questions related to dealing with federal immigration and safe routes to school work. And this one seemed to bubble to the top for a lot of folks, was really wanting to know how to decide when to continue or modify, pause, or cancel a safe routes to school activity because of safety concerns related to immigration enforcement presence. Do y'all have any insights on that?
I can start with like in the height of it. So January and February, people may be aware our school, we started offering distance learning. I mean, it was very unsafe and we really stopped a lot of activity. We stopped promoting Winter Walk Day. It just didn't seem appropriate, um, safe. But also, I just was worried about losing people's trust if I seemed just completely out of touch trying to get people to sign on to things. We stopped in safe routes to school planning. We stopped engagement. Um, and we also stopped some meetings. So I feel like in the height of it, I guess I'll start there. I can talk a little bit more about what we're doing now, but like in the height of it, we really did stop doing things because I think it would have damaged trust that our communities had in us if we just seemed oblivious to the reality of life for many of our neighbors.
Yeah, I mean, it was very similar here in St. Paul, in the height of it, right? Like it was very obvious and clear. Like we were having just an extraordinary and dangerous kind of situation. So that was like it was, yeah, and our district as a whole was communicating about it and making changes because of it. Um, and we very similar, just yeah, winter walk to school day was not a thing. It just wasn't going to be a thing, and that was okay. And looking back, starting in December, I know that's kind of when things were announced as they're expanding in Minnesota. And I know that we had families already reacting to that before there was like kind of a lot of new, there was like a couple little things here and there that were making the news, but and there wasn't like as many agents in town, but people knew that they were going to be targeted, and we already saw people. I guess we found out it's kind of like in retrospect, by the end of December, a quarter of our Latino students were not coming to school anymore. And so there were signs that things were already extraordinary or out of the ordinary or unsafe, that existed before it became like abundantly clear to someone who isn't necessarily like targeted by immigration enforcement. And I had started asking a few questions of schools like in December, like what are you hearing? Are people feeling safe walking to school? And it wasn't really bubbling up totally yet before winter break, but I think one thing is that, you know, having who do you know? Who are you talking to? Who's connected with the communities? Because if you aren't personally at risk, like you need to rely on those relationships you have with people who are connected with those communities that might be targeted. So I think that's an important thing to be thinking about is like who and how do you get kind of tapped into those into that information and the sense of how people are feeling, um, you know, and start building those relationships and those connections.
And I just might add, because we're in the same situation now. And so we do this, there's Bike to School Day. We do a big event on Bike to School Day where schools bike over several miles from their schools to the culinary center, to the where I work, and then we take a big bike ride in the community. There's public is invited, lots of folks, and it takes quite a bit of planning and a lot of schools on board. And the schools that come, a lot of them have immigrant families. Like it's like part of our neighbors and who we are in Minneapolis public schools. And so for making that decision, like in January and February, I was really like, I don't know if we'll be able to hold this event. And so sort of talking about, well, how do we decide? And so there were certain periods that I was like, I can't approach schools right now and even ask them. I didn't feel it, but eventually we got to a line where I felt like, okay, I'll ask them. And it was just so the people that I work with, it's sort of like there's three kind of big things that I think about now. And ICE has always been with us. Like this is not, we're in this situation right now that our families were struggling with before, um, for a long time, for, years and years. So now we're kind of back to that. And we still have ICE showing up and separating families in Minneapolis public schools. And so it's sort of like, is it safe? Do we have the capacity? And is it appropriate? Are kind of my three big questions that I was asking for this event. And so my first step is like, well, what's the crux of the event? Why do we do it? We do it for the students and we do it for the schools. Like that is my, kind of the overarching purpose. So I went to all the schools that participated and said, it's really tough. And how are you feeling about this event? If you want it, we'll make it happen. And if you want to sit this year out, it's okay. And so I had conversations with every school, and what they really coalesced around the schools was, we need this. Our kids need this. This is about joy and support and freedom in public. And we would like, knowing that things can change just like a lightning storm could, things could change where they wouldn't feel that way, but they were feeling like, yes, let's move forward. So then they want it. So like the people that are the center of the event. So then that is sort of gets at capacity and appropriateness, but is it safe? So then talking to some of the different folks in our district about how they see this event, and several partners, but I'll just highlight emergency management, safety and security. They're big partners of us. So they're the partners, and heard the same thing from them as well. We are on board to support you. We have an opportunity because we have a lot of people still patrolling our schools, not as many as the peak, but maybe we can capture some of that energy of patrollers too and have them show up at the event. I think they've been patrolling for kids that they don't really see. So it would be fun if they can help. I always is my dream of like a 5-mile route that people line the route and cheer for kids, every piece. And so maybe we can get even more people, not just the intersections and key spots, but all the way through. And so we're moving forward. It's not for sure, because we're moving forward as if it's for sure. So if you go to our website, you can sign up to volunteer. You can do all the things, but there's certain points that we'll do checks, and that check with emergency management, I think is really an important piece. So kind of right there with you in terms of trying to decide. And I think, like Sarah said, it's sort of what relationships, why are you doing it? Kind of like matching your purpose, and then using the relationships and some guiding principles to make decisions about what you're gonna do.
I feel like this is the nuance that you all are dealing with right now, and I'm going a little off script, so excuse me for that. But so there was a surge of, nearly thousands of ICE officers, and that was very visible, like Sarah was talking about. And I think the strategy might be a little bit different as they are increasing enforcement in other communities, less visible. Uh, how are you gauging, or how would you suggest gauging safe in a scenario where, like you said, Jenny, ICE has been around? Um, this isn't new, but it might be a little different.
How would I gauge? Say, I mean,
The answer can be,
I do really lean on our safety and security people. So we in Minneapolis Public Schools, we do not have school resource officers, so we don't have a police contract. So it's not the police, but it is our school district employees, and they're fantastic in terms of being connected with the community. We have a real trust relationship with many of these folks. They're part of our Safe Routes to School work group, and so they trust me, and I trust them, and so they are really boots on the ground for safety for our students. They are, they can get sent out to a school to be in that school area because of suspected ICE enforcement. So I would really trust them. I have trust in them, and I think they have trust in me, and our Safe Routes to School efforts. If they were to say it's not safe, then I think I have the trust that that is a meaningful decision, that they are sharing that with us, and I think they feel the same. That the efforts that we do in Safe Routes to School are important. They value them as part of our. They're not, because if you're super into safety, maybe you just want everyone to stay home and never go outside, and then you'll never encounter any danger. And they're not like that. They know that it's really good for kids to walk and bike and be together and be joyful. So does that get at an answer to the question that you were asking, Dave?
I think it does. I think it does.
I,
I don't think it
I
exists. Oh, sorry, Sarah.
no,
Go
go
ahead.
ahead, Dave.
I was just going to say, I don't think it exists, but I feel like there's a clamoring for a rubric that
Yeah.
tells you, like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
this is the benchmark. This is when you should stop, and you should let go of the safe routes reins for a bit.
Yeah. I think too, I mean, for me, it's a lot of conversations with the schools themselves, but they have already thought about some of these things. Like this, it's not just safe routes, right? Like they're talking about field trips and family events and other things. So they've been thinking about this stuff, and when is it safe, and how do we feel safe, and what do we need in place? And so like you're not going in blind. You're kind of collaborating and saying, okay, like how are you approaching this, and how can I help? If we decide that biking, going on a bike ride with your school is something you want to do, how can I help make sure that's safe? We do have our security and emergency management as well. We don't have school resource officers, so schools rely on that. And they have already kind of laid out, like, there are a lot of things that can happen when you're out in the community, right? Like it's not where schools are in different neighborhoods, there are different risks, and just being outside. And so there already are like processes and ways of like managing what do we do in an emergency situation? Well, we have we call these people, or we call 911, and like we know, we have our walkies, we know what to do. Like we get the kids out into a safe place. Like so those things are already in place. And so, we might need to go to what we know and do that if
Hmm.
something happens.
Hmm.
I would just add to that. I love that there are these existing systems already. And for us, we do really tie walking and biking to field trips. And I think to me, that's brilliant because it really legitimizes these efforts. And then we have a whole template for preparation that is district wide that people are familiar with. So if field trips were to be canceled, um, then
So what,
walking
so what
bike
events?
stuff
Yeah.
would be canceled as well.
Uh, so, so I'm going to bounce around a little bit here because this one feels like it's relevant. So you've talked about events, um, and I'm wondering a little bit more about maybe ongoing, regular Safe Routes activities. So whether that's a walking school bus or maybe a bike train or bus leader, crossing guards. Um, have you all done any training, or do you think that these folks need training in how to act if enforcement activity is nearby? Or is that tied to the field trip guidance that you all have in Minneapolis?
I haven't done anything extra. Um, I think in our district, like and I know in Minneapolis as well, there are a lot of parents who are doing patrolling around schools right now, just to be extra eyes as during arrival and dismissal. Um, and a lot of them have been through training. Like there's been a lot of community trainings, and the parent groups and the schools have worked together on kind of like a safety response, right? Like if something happens, here's what we do. And so those things are kind of already laid out. And I think a lot of people who are coming and volunteering in schools have participated in them. So that is one source. But I again I go back to like it's the same. Like if you were doing a walking school bus, we have plans in place for if something happens. And you follow that plan. It's still the same. Um, so yeah, I don't know if that answers the question.
Yeah, I was gonna say I haven't trained any groups this year on doing a walking bus and or a bike train, either one. Like we put resources out there, and sometimes people will ask for more. But if somebody were to ask me in this light, a school group or something, how would I do anything different? And the one thing that it kind of bubbles up for me, and maybe this feels the same for you, Sarah, and some of the people, but we have always known like our black and brown students in the communities that they live in have been plagued with gun violence, other personal safety ways. Just walking around black and brown in our society is dangerous. And yet we're still biking and walking and doing safe routes to school in these neighborhoods. And so I think it's somewhat of the way that we've always thought about the safety of safe routes to school, which I think is a part of safe routes to school. I think it should be really a part of what we do, isn't reducing traffic speeds. Just if your community, every time you ask them what makes them not feel safe, they talk about the corner liquor store that their kids have to walk by or other places. This doesn't feel the scale feels a little bit different because it is our federal government, but it doesn't feel so different from that to me, I guess. So some of those same things that we talk about and worry about and prepare for and hear from families are similar.
I think I completely agree. And that's why I think partly that's why I'm saying like we have plans and we, we have ways of like knowing what to do if there's an emergency situation. And yeah, this is a different kind of context and
Yeah.
scale maybe, but it's not totally
Yeah,
different than the way we're thinking about things.
I'll be honest with like a struggle just because we're trying to is thinking about the Let's Roll and talking to the some of the engagement people who work specifically with Spanish speaking communities, and they're like, "This will be great. Yes, we want to do this." And she's like, "What would be really great is if you make a document for our parents that tells all the ways that you'll keep them safe."
Mm,
And I'm like, "Okay," like thinking, "Okay," but then also, we can say we can't guarantee safety ever. Probably, I always feel like we can't. Can we? I mean, maybe some of you feel like you can, but we can say we will do this planning and we'll have these people and we will prioritize the safety of your students in everything that we do. But to guarantee safety, she didn't say to guarantee safety, but she did say, but I kind of,
I
yeah.
could see how you'd feel that though. You'd feel like you
Yeah,
needed to,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Well,
Uh-huh.
and I guess I don't, for that particular event too, I don't want to convince anybody to come that might not feel safe as well.
Hmm.
Like it's a personal decision too, and families have to make decisions that are right for themselves.
That kind of leads into my next question, which is if you've adapted your messaging in light of immigration enforcement concerns, while still, I know, sometimes you might be receiving Safe Routes to School funding and feel like you should be doing Safe Routes to School. And so I think those kind of are in tension with each other, particularly in a crisis like this, where it feels like your strongest role in the district is not necessarily encouraging walking and biking, or even trying to make it safer. And those, if you're using the definitions of safety that you mentioned, Jenny, so like whether it's a liquor store or being harassed on the street or uh, federal agents are at your school.
I mean, I would consider a liquor store and being harassed on the street are part of Safe Routes to School.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's what I
Or
was
after,
saying.
no,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah, yeah,
yeah,
no,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah. No, I was saying those were.
yeah.
So do you
I think,
message any differently?
yeah. I mean, stopped messaging about some things, like we said, but now that we're kind of going into a new phase, I think a lot of the way that I'm approaching it is more of, hey, I know it's been it's been real, it's been a hard couple of months, and but spring is here. Um, you know, how can I help you? I know your students love doing these, whatever it is. Like, how can I help you? How can we help you make this happen? Because I think people want to. So it's just kind of, what are you interested in doing? And how can I help? Like, is it that you need more volunteers, or, maybe you aren't going to bike off campus as much this year, whatever it is. Like, or like maybe you're walking back to school day. I'm saying, here are a list of things you can do to encourage walking and biking to school. Here's a list of things that you can do as a way to celebrate on your school campus if that's what, if that's more
Hmm.
important. Like,
Hmm.
just trying to give options and like indicate that I'm here to help, and like I will help you do what you think is best. Um, and I was reflecting on it. It's a lot of it's not really that different than like how you would normally try to approach things. I mean, the communication maybe has changed a little to acknowledge what's happened, or
Hmm.
what the real concerns have been. But like that's kind of always the approach, is like, where are you? Like, tell me where you are, like what you're interested in, and I will try to help you where you're at. Like, that's my job, right? Like, I'm right here to help you, like, with whatever that is. And I know those other safety concerns, like the personal safety concerns, are important. It doesn't mean the other ones aren't real too, and things that we will absolutely still work on. Like, we have heard about those things. Those things have still come up this winter, not as much, but like we're still working on that stuff too. So,
Hmm. Hmm.
um, it's just a matter of degree.
Yeah. Uh, what would your advice be? So you all have, I think, what is a coveted position inside of the school district, right? Like, you understand the different roles of different staff inside of the district. You understand, you have relationships probably with the majority of the schools. A lot of folks that might be joining this call might be coming from nonprofits, or transportation related agencies. Do you have any thoughts for them in terms of making some of these same decisions around messaging, around programming, if there isn't a Safe Routes to School coordinator that exists inside of the school district?
it's broad, your question, so I'm trying to picture it in specifics. Like I'm an org that's
You're you're a
wants.
you're a bicycle and pedestrian advocacy organization
Mhm,
that receives funding to work with schools on education and encouragement.
mhm,
You work from outside of the school. You rely
yeah,
on um, potential partnerships in those schools, but ones that are hard to initiate and foster over time.
mm.
Do you have any suggestions for that person?
Yeah. So I'm trying to picture like you probably have relationships. So I think like some of what Sarah's and I've talked about too, just like talking to people and figuring out what where they're at and what they need. But if you're trying to build new relationships, I mean, it's a little bit the same, because we have a lot of school districts, and so I think generally trying to learn about the community before you approach the community if it's a new community for you, and there should be lots of ways to do that. I think I think that I think just finding ways to build relationships that aren't let me have like I was thinking about a school like during this crisis, and a new group like comes to the school and they're just telling me this and kind of passing, and they're like, we want to run a walking bus, like we want to keep your kids safe and we want to do this thing. But to the school, they didn't know the people. They didn't,
Mm,
there was all sorts of things that they felt like maybe they don't understand about like our school district or what the ways we would do it. And it probably isn't like the heat of the crisis probably isn't the time to approach a school. So now maybe is a good time
mm,
to build relationships if you're not, in the heat of a surge. But
mhm,
I think you have to you have to you have to you can't get around knowing people or having relationships with people. And I guess I'll say this as one thing that we have that maybe that's a you can build this structure, but we have a Safe Routes to School work group that has people from the district. It's about half different of these district entities that we try to build relationships with, and then half is like public works type people, public health type people, anybody that ever comes to present, where I always say, like, you can come whenever you wanted. So if there was a nonprofit that wanted to come, they could come. And we are a school district. So we want to enter spaces people before we enter spaces business. And so we always start that meeting with a warm welcome. And it always is sort of a way to learn something about every person who's at that meeting. And we meet monthly and it's only for an hour. And sometimes the agendas are light. Like I think about this, like, and we spend our time finding out like what community ed classes everybody wants to take or whatever. I get to know these people, and no offense to transportation planners because they're on, but they're kind of like very all business type people. If I was going to meet an all business type person, like the ones that are drawing the street stuff. So we kind of force you into that. And I'm like, I love fun and joy. But that's like preparing for an emergency, people. That's all you're doing. And so some of the meetings are light, but we have built this trust. So now when we have this emergency, we can spring into action. And we all know each other. We can call each other. We know, and we can get things done. And so that I would just apply to Safe Routes to School. I would apply it to your block. I would apply it to your community. But spending getting a little structure somewhere. So we have this monthly meeting where we check in and then join it as people before you join it as business, and see understand that you must incorporate fun and joy into your practice because that is what prepares you for when you
yeah,
have to rely on each other.
that's such a critical reframe of something that I think people dread. Like that coming in as a person and
Yes, that's
having
coming.
that icebreaker,
Yep.
it makes all the difference, and it builds those like thinking of it as building a relationship for future hard work together, I think is a
Yeah.
It's a helpful way to think about it. Sarah, were you going to say something?
Well, I was just, yeah, I think like, it's not entirely different than us going in with a new school that I haven't worked with before, right? Like
Hmm.
they're kind of their own little world and you have to start completely new, with them. And
Hmm.
I feel like a lot of it is coming in and just really asking a lot of questions and trying to understand them first and trying to understand what's important to them and they really care about so that I can try to align the potential work we do with that. And, when you're looking at a community, maybe with some enhanced immigration enforcement, but not an emergence, like not like the emergency kind of level. Like there might be some things that I think Safe Routes programs like and what schools need are gonna align, like we want, more adults to help kids get to school or um, you know, as we're kind of and here as we're going, it's like people are getting used to being back out in the community. It's like that's a real value and a way that Safe Routes can help. It's like, we want to be kind of taking back our public spaces, right? And
Mhm.
so there's going to be some alignment of value. And I think it's just like starting with that kind of question, like, what are you noticing? What do what kinds of concerns do you have? What kinds of things are you interested in? And like, how can we align some of that work? Or here's some resources. I have some resources, like I can help you. Um, and
Mm.
that kind of approach. Yeah. I don't know.
Love it.
Yeah, and respect and I think also like don't assume they're not doing
Yeah.
things or like come in to listen and find out first because even in my own school district like I don't hold all the safe routes to school. There's like great things happening and I guess I expect that when I go into a new school and trying to bring them on board, I'm going to expect that there are great things happening at that school that I want to learn about and a great community there that I want to know and
Hmm.
understand.
This conversation is always so rich. Um, and we have 8 minutes left. I don't know how that happened, but I have a lightning round for the end. It's just a couple of rapid fire questions, with the hopes that you can rapid fire answers and we can squeeze them in our last 8 minutes here. So I've got 4 questions. Let's see if we can get through them all. If you don't have a response for it, that's okay too. But what is one concrete action a local Safe House to School program can take in the next month if they're anticipating heightened enforcement?
I think the most critical thing is like making sure you have your relationships in place and like reaching out to people now, and talking with them and letting them know like I'm here and asking those questions again, like what do you anticipate needing and how can I
Hmm.
help?
Great. Jenny?
Um, I think I would look for a training in my area and I would go to that. I think that's really makes you feel a lot safer and you feel like you can do, if you're feeling bad, find somebody who's training people on their rights or something in that and go to that.
Hmm. Love both your answers. What is one mistake you would encourage a Safe House to School coordinator or someone that's implementing a Safe House program to avoid?
In the real surge, we had a lot of angst about canceling things, I think. And, and not looking back, I'm like, we didn't need any, I don't feel bad about any of the things
Hmm.
that we didn't do. So
Hmm.
I just think sometimes I love getting things done. I love whatever bringing new people, but it's okay. That's all right not to as well. Just stay kind of focused on, okay, yeah, I don't know. Avoid being worried about the small things.
Hmm. I think that and I think just one other like thing I experienced, you probably did too, Jenny, is that like rumors fly. Like you, I found that it was hard sometimes to know what was true, and sometimes people would be coming to me to say like, are people really doing this at the school? And trying to keep the level head and verify information and
Mm.
I don't know. That was just
Ver-
one
That's
thing
a
I
good
experienced in the
one.
height of it.
Yeah, it's a good
verify
one.
information is really
Yeah,
good right now.
that is a good one.
Yes.
And not like
Yes.
adds like fuel to the fire if they're,
Right. Don't
there's already a
necessarily
fire.
believe it, even though maybe it's
Hmm.
true.
Hmm.
It's a good one.
Yeah, I like that. Um, what is one message you most want the folks on this call to hear right now? And you may have kind of covered this, but let's synthesize.
Oh, I have one. I just think like in Minneapolis, that is what we chant. Like it's been chanted, like who keeps us safe? We keep us safe. And so
Mhm.
every one of you has agency and you matter. So use your power.
Hmm.
I think too, just like the people in your community probably care a lot about a lot of things. And so it can be hard to know how to tap into that, I think. But like that's something that I'm more and more being like, how do we like ask for help and like build those connections and get that support because people care a lot.
Mm. We may make it through all the questions. What is one resource or partnership that has been especially helpful?
I don't know.
I'm trying to think of something new that I didn't say. I mean, get on
Yeah.
Signal. Like for us, like all
Oh
those
yeah.
Signal chats are really helpful. So, and I did like in the downtime, like before, I'd learned some of that. So lots of stuff gets done. It's really helpful to my work. Like I don't have any Safe Routes to School one directly, but I do kind of have
Mhm.
my my eyes in some of them that are very helpful to
Yeah, I
what's happening.
same. I guess yeah, I do have one, and that is for me, my union has been a really important part of the response to immigration enforcement and a way for me to be involved in some of that response work outside of kind of my traditional role, and that's been really helpful to me. And so what are the organizations or the kind of organizing groups that you might be part of or that you should maybe join that could help you be involved and kind of understand and know what's happening more?
The district and the city too have had great resources for us, so I lean on those
Yeah.
all the time. Like in the peak of it, they
Hmm.
you can kind of see the roadmap there.
Well, you two handled all these questions beautifully, and so much so that we have time for one last one. And I'm going to use this as a lead into the conference here in the Twin Cities in the fall. What's your favorite bike ride or walk to take when you're got a little time to get out the door on that 75-degree Saturday?
I know. So it's in St. Paul, and I live, so I have two kids, and one of my favorite things to do is about a 10-mile ride is we go from our house to the river, and the Mississippi River Boulevard, or like the trails there, and then down into something called
Mm.
Crosby Farm, which is like technically an old farm, but it's on the river, and there's like wetlands and stuff. So you like go down deep into nature, and then we pop back up, go up a big hill, which is hard. However, it ends at an ice cream shop.
Oh,
And I love doing that and then having that incentive at the end and getting my kids out.
yes. Crosby Farm is particularly like natural for being in the middle of a city.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. Like when you're here, I think you get to do that. You get to ride a bike and be in the city, and then you get to be in nature, and like
Uh-huh.
go between, and it's great.
Yeah. Jenny, we have
Right.
1 minute left. Hit us with it.
Okay. Well, I love biking and walking as transportation, and I promise you, come to the conference and you will be able to get wherever you want to go in one of those two ways, and it will be awesome. So I love it when I have a new place to go and I pull out the map and I kind of look and see what are the different routes. So I don't know, I love them all. So it's hard
All
to pick.
destinations in Minneapolis are your favorite
All
ride.
every place you want to go, you can get there on foot,
Uh-huh.
you can get there by bike. You will love it.
Thank you again, you two, for coming and joining us. Joining us last time and joining us this time. I think it's been immensely helpful, and I'm really appreciative that you took the time.
Thanks,
Yeah,
everyone.
thanks everybody.
Yeah.
I hope it
Take
helps.
care, everybody.
Yeah, take care.